Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be doing the 2024 end of year book tag, and we're basically going to be talking about a whole bunch of books. You can't really see it, but I am truly sitting in a sea of books. And I'm just so excited to talk about them all. Before I get into anything, I want to give credit to Destiny. She filmed this video a few years ago, and then I've been recycling the questions ever since I filmed that video. And then also I did just make a few changes that fit my personal reading taste a little bit better. I think that's it for me. Let's get into the reading tag. A couple quick things. I am filming this video at the beginning of December, so there's probably a few books that are not going to make it into this tag. But at this point in the year, I have read 53 books out of my goal of 24. I did intentionally set a low goal because I didn't want to make it about the number of books, more so the quality of books, if that makes sense. So that's something to keep in mind. And then the last thing is I'm not going to get into plot summaries super specifically. Like, guys, we are talking about a lot of books. So I'm going to answer the question, tell you my feelings, and we're just going to get through all of these amazing reads. Okay, so question number one is Underdog Book of the Year. And I am so excited to talk about this one. The book that I wanted to use for this question is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I literally am physically incapable of stopping myself from thinking about this book. I picked up this book thinking that I would like it, but not maybe feel super strongly about it. I don't really love time travel. Like, there's a little bit of time stuff that goes on in this book. But when I tell you that this is truly one of the best romances I've ever read, one of the best books I've ever read, the literary fiction elements in here were so good. The relationship in here was absolutely everything to me. And this is now one of my favorite books of all time. Definitely in one of my top books of 2024. Loved this book, and it was definitely an underdog. I was not expecting that at all. Question number two is most disappointing book of the year, and I feel a little bit bad answering this question, but I've got to be honest with you all. I think my most disappointing book was The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. There's a few reasons for that. The cover is gorgeous, and did I judge a book by its cover? Yeah, a little bit. The vibes just look so good, and so I wasn't expecting like literature necessarily, but I was hoping for something a little bit more than this. I think I rated this 2 stars when I read it. I barely finished it. And yeah, it just felt really forced to me. I didn't like the romance. I didn't love the characters. Like, honestly, nothing about this book really stood out to me. And it's to the point where I'm like, I don't even think I'm going to continue this series because I disliked it that much. Number 3, we have a book that was overhyped. And for that question, I think I'm going to go with The Atlas 6 by Olive E. Blake. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy this book. Like, me saying that this is overhyped, don't get it twisted. I did like this book. I thought it was good. I enjoyed my reading experience. But for how much hype that this book got in years past, I don't know if I fully understand that. So while this is a good book, is it that good? You know, is it as good as the hype made it out to be? I don't know if I would say so, you know, and I think also sometimes when a book is so hyped up, I'm like, okay, the pressure is really on for me to like love and enjoy this book. And again, I did like it, but not like some other people do. Every year I get this question and it is almost impossible to answer, and that is favorite book couple. And I'm trying not to repeat books for this tag, okay? I think this is my only repeat. And so I have to say Clementine and Ewan. Like, you know it, I know it. I loved them. I think about them daily. Okay? But then the other book couple that I have not talked about yet has to be Emma and Justin from Just for the Summer. I gave this book 5 stars. It was so good. And not only was it the whole book that was so good, but the relationship in here was just so sweet. Justin was very much an acts of service king in here. I heard everyone saying on YouTube that like, if he wanted to, he would. Like, that is literally Justin in here. And I loved him, but I also really loved Emma in here. Like, the two of them as individual people, but also as a couple in this book was so special and something that I just absolutely adored reading about. And so if you guys haven't read the series, go do it. Read it in order though. You heard it here first. Do not read this first. This book is so much better if you read it in order. But yeah, this couple just will always have a special place in my heart. And I just related to so many things that happened in their relationship. And I really, really, really loved them. But also, guys, just know there were a lot of book couples that I really liked this year. Those are just the two that are coming to mind. I might need to go back and check my video from last year, but for favorite main character, I might have said Selena Sardothian last year, and we're saying it again. I just love this queen so much, and I cannot wait to finish this series. I've been putting it off because I don't want it to end. You guys already know. But she is just truly a girl boss, and not only is her story really entertaining to watch. I feel like it's one thing to read a fantasy series where the main character is so much fun and there's so much happening and the book itself is really good. But if we're talking about the actual character, like who they are, Selena, she has got it together. Like, I just love watching her as she thinks about things, as she figures out how to handle a situation. And like, I don't know, I just adore her. And she is easily one of my favorite main characters that I've ever read about. And I also just feel so attached to her. I don't know, to me, she's my bestie and I just want to cheer her on in all of her endeavors. So yeah, I love this book. I love these characters. Selena has to take the cake. Potentially second year in a row. I'm not sure. The next question is a book that surprised you, and I have to go with Daisy Hates for this one. I freaking loved this book. I read this very, very recently, and the reason that I'm putting it in like the book that surprised you question is because well, first of all, with this whole series, I had heard very mixed reviews about it. And I didn't really know if toxic, wealthy relationships was just going to be my cup of tea, but apparently it is. And so I read Magnolia Parks, which is the first book in this series, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It was fun. I definitely, when I finished that, was itching to read more of the series. And so a few weeks later, I picked up Daisy Hates in the midst of a very bad reading slump. And I loved this book, and I think I was surprised because I liked it so much more than Magnolia Parks. Like, I liked Magnolia Parks, it was good, but the way that I care so much about Daisy, Julian, and Christian, like, it is actually ridiculous, and I've only read one book out of several. It really, really surprised me. I did end up giving this book 5 stars, and again, in the midst of a reading slump, which, like, to me, that's very, very telling. And I just wasn't expecting it. I thought I would like it. Did not think it would be one of my favorite books of the year. But it totally, totally was. The next question is new favorite author. And I don't own any of her books, but I think for this question, I'm gonna have to say Elsie Silver. I read 5 of Elsie Silver's books this year. I read the entire Chestnut Spring series start to finish, and I don't usually do that with series. Like, usually it takes me a very long time to get through them. And so the fact that I was able to pick up one of these books and then by the end of the year had read the entire series, that is so telling to me. I personally just really enjoyed the cowboy small town vibes in this series, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading more of her books. I think I want to read, is it the Rose Hill series? I think I want to read that next, but I'm also tempted to read her backlist. I don't know. All of her books are on Kindle Unlimited also, which is the reason that I don't own any. And yeah, I'm obsessed with her books and I cannot wait to read more of them. The next question is happiest read of the year. And this one's hard because we'll talk about this later, but I did do a lot of rereads this year, especially at the beginning of the year. I was really focused on just reliving the magic of all of my favorite books. And I really, really wanted to put a reread for this question, but I ended up not. And so I've ultimately decided to put Funny Story by Emily Henry as happiest read of the year. And there's a few reasons for making this the answer to that question. I think the first one, this was not like a perfect book to me, but there was something so, so exciting about just getting the opportunity to read my favorite author's newest book. Like, when I tell you guys that I count down the days to Emily Henry releases every single year, like, it is my Christmas, okay? April of this year was Christmas for me. And just, I felt so happy. And the reading vlog that video is in is just one of my absolute favorites. Like getting to be a part of that book and in that world and with those characters was so much fun. And so I think beyond just the book, the reading experience and the culture around it and watching everyone read it on YouTube, like that was just so fun and so happy to me. And so, yeah, I think all of that's to say, Funny Story by Emily Henry has to be my happiest book of the year. Then we have most frustrating book of the year, and I could have gone multiple directions with this question. I ended up choosing a book that I absolutely loved, okay? And bear with me. The most frustrating book of the year for me was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I gave this book a 4.75. This is as close as you can come to a perfect book for me. And I, in fact, would rate the first probably 80% of this book a 10-star. I loved it so much. Like I've never felt so seen, so loved, so infatuated by like a book and a story, and especially the characters. Like I love them so much. Brianna and Jacob are everything to me. But the reason that I'm putting this in most frustrating is because the conflict that emerges at the end absolutely shattered me. Because I cared so much about this relationship, when things were difficult or weren't being communicated or were hard, I literally could not take it. Like emotionally, this book was just, it was messing me up. And so I was so frustrated because this could have been my new all-time favorite book. Seriously, I love it. I still love it. But just that last little conflict really frustrated me. And I've never felt so much pain, anger, angst, frustration right after being like the happiest I've ever been. So I love this book. Like, I do not want to say anything less on it, but yeah, I got so frustrated in it. And so I don't know, I didn't want to put like a bad book for this question. I just like got so frustrated at the end. But I think that's my problem. I get too emotionally invested in my books. Now we're getting to some of the new questions. I think some of my questions will be sprinkled in throughout the rest of this tag. Most of those were Destiny's. But the next question that I wanted to answer is favorite nonfiction. And last year I did so good. I read so much nonfiction last year. This year, not the greatest. But out of the nonfiction books that I did read, I think I read 3 this year, which again is really, really low for me. I think I'm gonna go with The Richest Man in Babylon. It's not like your conventional nonfiction book or like finance book. This is just a really sweet way of talking about, money and saving and how to succeed financially. But it's not like super hardcore nonfiction. It's told through a series of parables where you're looking at the ancient city of Babylon. And I think it's just we're trying to figure out how exactly what it says on the title, how the richest man in Babylon became the richest man in Babylon. And so people are like asking him for advice, and there's all these little stories in here. And it was just so sweet. And honestly, it really has stuck with me. If you say, like, let's say you make 10 pieces of silver every month, okay? If you save 1 piece of silver every month, you're going to have 10 silvers in 10 months. That's like so much silver, So anyway, little sweet things like that really stood out to me about this book, and I think it was my favorite. Then we have my favorite classic, and my favorite classic by a mile this year was Dracula by Bram Stoker. I did a reading vlog where I read spooky classics, and it was one of my favorite videos that I did this year. Not a ton of people watched it, but like I love that video so much. And in it, I read Dracula, and you guys can just see how I fall in love with Bram Stoker's writing, with the characters in this book. And I don't know, the like gothic horror feel that this book had, it was just exceptional. And it really exceeded my expectations for a classic, for the story of Dracula. Like I just loved it so much. And I feel like it might become one of those books that I continue to read like in the future, I don't know if I'll read it next year, but like in a few years, I'll probably yearn to read that around Halloween time again. And I think, honestly, guys, it might be my new favorite classic. For years, it's been The Great Gatsby, but like I loved this book. So if you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend. Then we have the longest and shortest books that I read this year. I have one, not both. The longest book that I read this year was Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas, and this is around 650 pages, 648. So good, by the way. That was the longest book that I read this year. And then the shortest book that I read this year was The Ultimate Guide to Planning Your Personal Finances by Mike Bernstein. That book was 93 pages long. And I read it on my Kindle Unlimited, same thing. And it was really good, really fun, short, quick, easy. You guys might notice a theme with personal finance in here. Didn't mean to do that on purpose. But yeah, those were the longest and shortest books, which is literally like a 40 page difference. It's like ridiculous. Tell me why I love the question favorite book covers. Like this is just an excuse to talk about gorgeous books. And I have two for this question. The first one that I desperately wanted to talk about in this video is A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. Do you guys see how beautiful that is? This also sits on my romance shelf, and I feel like compared to all my other romances, like they're kind of light pastel-y colors, and then you just have this vibrant blue, pink, neon looking book. I mean, let's just take a moment for this gorgeousness. Like this book was good. I think I gave it 4 stars, but the cover, fantastic. Sorry if the lighting changed. And then the other book that I think is just so stunning and is one of my favorite books to look at on my shelf is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I think this cover is gorgeous. I don't know about you guys, but this to me is absolutely stunning. I love fantasy covers. Like to me, they're just on another level most of the time. And I think Under the Dust Jacket in this one is also, yeah, this one is, it's just so like simple but beautiful. It has this little like sword on it. I mean, tell me these books aren't gorgeous. You can't. Next, we have an unpopular book that you loved. And I felt like this question could have been received in 2 different ways. Like either the ratings on the book itself are low or there's not a lot of people who've read it. And so for this one, I picked a book that's rated highly, but not a lot of people have read it. And that book is All That's Left in the World by Eric Brown. And this book was so much fun. Fun might not be the right word for it, but I really enjoyed this book. This is a queer post-apocalyptic romance novel. It sounds all over the place, but trust me, it's so, so good. I read this book with one of my best friends from home as like a book club, and he loved it. I loved it. You guys should totally read it. It was really, really good. Not a lot of people. I think there's a good amount of people have read it, but it's not as popular as I think it should be. I think it's like 30,000 reviews on Goodreads. And the reviews are pretty high. So yeah, if you guys are interested in that, you should totally check it out. Another question that I'm sure I threw in here is favorite rereads. I think I quite literally read or reread like 6 or 7 of my favorite books this year. I did a lot. Like I was putting in the work. But there's 2 books that I honestly just at this point read every single year and I'm obsessed with them and they still can't be topped. And so I had to go with, I mean, look at these. They are like literally destroyed with all of my annotations. But those books are Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren and Happy Place by Emily Henry. These 2 books are my happy place. I love them so much. Like I cannot wait to reread them and destroy them again with new notes, new annotations. Like I think it's just going to be so much fun. I love these books so much. If you guys have not read these, I mean, I don't need to tell you to read them. You can clearly see how I feel about them. And yeah, they just bring me so much joy and truly are the embodiment of like 5-star and 6-star feelings. Like that is why I love to read, is those 2 books right there. This is another one that I added in, and that is highlights that I've not mentioned so far. So I feel like after answering all these questions, there's still so many amazing books that I've read that like don't quite fit into any of the questions. And so I just want to throw in here 2 more highlights that I just loved, but don't like quite answer a question. Exactly right. And the first one is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is another one of my absolute favorite books to come out of 2024. It is a signed copy that my best friend gave me, and I am just so lucky to have her and now this book in my life. Again, I annotated it like a crazy person. It is so good, and I just will take any opportunity that I can to tell the world to pick up this book. I really want to read another book by this author very, very soon. So this is one, and then I have one other book for this question. You guys can't see it, but there is a stack of books right here that I'm just waiting to fall on me. And the last book for that question is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This book, so incredible, but also it was my first Abby Jimenez book ever, and now I am the biggest Abby Jimenez fan ever, and I just really wanted to mention this book because I feel like this is what started it all, you know, like for sure 2025 will include me going and reading her entire backlist and salivating over her newest release. I still need to read the novella that she just released for this little trilogy. I think it's called The Situationship, right? Let me know if you guys have read it. I haven't yet, but I totally need to do that. We're almost done, guys. We have 2 more questions left. The next question is reading goal, reflection, and 2025 reading goal. I think I said this at the beginning, but my reading goal for 2024 was 24 books, and clearly I read more than that. I just don't like to set super unrealistic goals for myself because I'm repeating myself, but like, if I set a goal really, really high, I'm not going to want to pick up like the Throne of Glass books or ACOTAR or like any other super long book. Brandon Sanderson, like it's not motivating because I'm like, oh, I need to read a shorter book and get to my reading goal. So I put pretty low reading goals for my standards and then just feel good when I inevitably hit them. And then the last question is, what are you prioritizing for reading in the upcoming year? And there's a few things I think that are really important to me. I think the first one is just genuinely reading what I want to read. I think in the past few years, I have done not the best job of prioritizing the books that I want to read. And what I mean by that is I'll get gifted books or friends will give me books or I'll be recommended a book. And I kind of put the books aside that I want to read so I can get to that person's recommendation or I can get that book back to the person who lent it to me. Like I prefer to just say, hey, like I don't think I'm interested in borrowing that book, like quite frankly. Also, this was a goal last year and I did not great on it, like okay, but could have done better. And that is finishing series. There are a lot of series that I have started recently and now I need to finish them. Fortunately, most of them are so good and I'm very excited to finish those books. The main reason I honestly haven't finished the series is because I don't own any of the books. I just don't have access to them. So I guess making it a priority to also acquire the next books in series. Yeah, those are all of the questions that I have. I hope you guys enjoyed this little end of year book tag. Again, I have a feeling I'm going to read quite a few more books by the end of the year. I am starting to inch my way out of this reading slump slowly but surely. So hopefully we're going to start 2025 off in the best and biggest reading mood. Just need to finish shaking that off because that's been not fun. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let's keep it classic. Comment down below the little book emoji so I know who the real ones are. But that's gonna be it from me. I hope you guys are having a great day and a great reading month, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!